Secretary Lane, what I'd like to do right now is go into citizen participation. With the heads up, I'm gonna tell you, I do have 3 blue cards I want to get to before we get to the list online. If that's okay with you, I'll go ahead and say next item, please.
There's one more, Dave, if you want.
I'm sorry?
One more.
Okay, there's gonna be 4 cards, and I think there's gonna be at least one that's on your list too, and I'll point that out when we get to it, Secretary Lane.
Thank you, President Barry and trustees, and
You're not going too far, are you?
no, I'm right here, I just could
Okay,
go
yeah,
off.
yeah, I thought you said thank you and.
Don't leave.
Exactly. Okay, so, go ahead and read, go ahead, next item, please.
Citizen participation. Citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action can complete a blue card in person at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom, or they can complete a virtual blue card that will be posted at www.firstbell.dearbornschools.org. Forms received by 7:10 p.m. will be read by the board secretary. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of school district employees or students. Please keep your comments as possible. We do have 52 comments. The board president reserves the right to limit times.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I believe we have 3.
And they're almost all on agenda items.
Okay, yeah, and I have 3, I believe, potential agenda item and 1 non, so I'm gonna get to the 3 first. Our first speaker is, I don't know if he's still here, Luke Hetrick of Dearborn, would like to speak to us regarding school reopenings. So that would be a- Okay.
Yeah. So hello, my name is Luke Hetrick. I'm a senior at Etzel Ford and DCMST. I would like to put out a word for the students because I feel like we've been a little bit underrepresented so far in the discussion. You might recognize my name from earlier. Back when the meeting started, I was commended as the only National Merit Scholarship semifinalist in the district. So you can use that to judge that I'm an academically minded student, put school first over a lot of other things. And I'd like to thank the board for putting the safety of students first. I know it's really important. I understand that. But I also think that online school isn't a sufficient form of education. I think everyone understands that, administrators, teachers, students, parents. But I think what's not being understood is how bad online school is. Because if you just look at the metrics of like assignments turned in and the grades of students and stuff, it all looks good, but we're not learning that much. Teachers aren't using it to teach. We're trying to figure out online problems and talk about assignments. But most of the learning, if there is learning happening, it's just teachers giving assignments and giving work, which isn't teaching, especially for students like myself that are taking a lot of academically challenging classes. So, and it's not just me. I know I can probably be an exception. I'm different from a lot of students. I'm taking 3 AP classes, DCMST, I'm taking a lot of challenging stuff. But it's not just me. All of my friends, my classmates, teachers I've talked to, my sister Helen, she's a sophomore. She's experiencing similar struggles. My younger sister Nora is in 2nd grade at Lindbergh. And listening to her poor teacher try to control that class of 20, 30 second graders for 4 or 5 hours a day, it's difficult to watch because she struggles and she's doing her best, but it's really hard. And so I think we need to move to in-person learning. I'm hearing that a lot from a lot of board members, but I think something to be considered is that secondary school needs to, or secondary students need to head back to in-person too. I understand the idea of phasing it in, going K through 3 and then 4 through 5 and then to secondary. But one of the plans recommended was, you do that in order, and if you give parents a 2-week notice before you start bringing kids back, suddenly you're looking at secondary not being back in school to almost Christmas, right? Because if you guys decide tonight to start going back, 2 weeks, that puts us towards the end of October, a week or two for K through 3, another week or two through K through 4, and suddenly it's early December, assuming there are no bumps, there are no pauses, you do it right in that order, and suddenly I'm not back in school till, almost Christmas, maybe the New Year, which I don't think is really good for anyone, because that sets up a lot of students to not be successful. Because I know as a senior, I'm going to college next year, I want to go to an academically challenging college, and if I don't get the information I need, that could set me back. And not just looking at seniors, but looking at other students, you're putting them behind for next year by not giving the information they need now. My AP Calculus teacher has told us a couple times that we're a month behind already from where she normally is this time of year because of the information we missed in the spring. And so I just want to voice what students are feeling, because I've talked to a number of my classmates across all 3 high schools that it's a real struggle. Nobody really feels like we're learning anything, and it's just not being very successful. And as a senior, I understand that my senior year is already basically gone. We're not going to get a homecoming. We're not going to get to go to football games. We're going to miss out on all those senior experiences that we normally have, and we get that. It's just another thing that the pandemic's taken away from us. We're not trying to get those things back. We know we're not going to have a prom. We know graduation is up in the air, maybe in person, maybe not, maybe a combination. And we feel that we need to go back in school to get an education that'll really help us and prepare us for the future. Thank you.
Luke, don't go too far. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Students have been involved. They served on the committee, I believe, yeah. But my goal, our goal, is for you to go ahead and experience that graduation, the parties, the graduation parties. We were all brokenhearted last year. I mean, you probably could imagine, because they're your friends.
Yeah.
That, I heard from parents, I heard from the students. That's our favorite time of the year. That's the fruit that we reap from all this time that we put in. So my goal is, and I want you to, I want to hear your thoughts on what I'm going to say. And I promise you, Trustee Lane, I won't do this with everybody. But this is the reason we're here, students. So my goal is for you to have that experience, that second semester, to go ahead and finish out, to go ahead and have that graduation ceremony. We want to be there to hand you your diploma and congratulate you. But, 10 million people in the state of Michigan, about 100,000 in the city of Dearborn, we're the third largest district. We're not dealing with 1,600 students, 1 high school, 1 middle school, 2
Yeah.
elementary. So if we have, I'll use your words, bumps in the road, we can just shut it down, get together at the local diner and make these decisions and move on. We have over 20,000 students, thousands of staff members that we're responsible for. We're responsible for 25 to 28% of the population every day of the city. And guess what? That population comes into contact with the rest of the community. The last thing I would want to see is, let's just flip the switch. And there are people that think that way. Flip the switch, get everybody in, let's just go back to normal. You know what's going to happen? That's going to cheat you and your fellow classmates of that last semester in high school. To me, I'm speaking for myself here, no doubt in my mind, that's what's going to happen, because now there aren't that many students in the buildings, and very limited staff, and we lose control sometimes. What do I mean by that? We have 3 nurses right now that as soon as something happens, Dr. Malako's team get to work. They're talking to people, and we get reports that so-and-so student can come back on the 12th. So-and-so staff member is gone for a couple weeks. Could you imagine thousands of staff members and over 20,000 students? You would have to hire a team to keep track of the logistics. Let's close this class down. By the way, this building's closed, it's not gonna be open until, you see where this is going?
Yeah.
And that's gonna just implode our plan. It's gonna go in the wrong direction, and I think there's no doubt in my mind, you're gonna get cheated of that graduation and, what is it, it's not homecoming, what's the other?
Prom?
Prom, and, Our goal is for you to have that experience, because it was a heartbreaker for us. You know, I'm not gonna get emotional here, but we were hurting, we were in pain for the seniors last year. So thank you. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them.
Yeah, so I'm not saying we should just flip the switch and all go back full send. I understand. I do my best to keep up with the information about
Appreciate
how
it.
it spreads, aerosol versus not aerosol, the distance, spread rates between like teenagers versus adults, the at-risk groups. I understand a lot. I'm not saying we should go back. I'm just saying in the discussion, I like the idea of that like sixth graders and ninth graders could go back first too with elementary schoolers, because in most buildings they'd have the building to themselves. I would love to have prom. I would love to have a graduation, and I know like all of my friends and classmates would agree with me. But I think we also recognize that we don't want to put the safety of our community and our family members and our relatives who might be more at risk than we are. We don't want to put them at risk just because we wanted to have a prom, even though a prom was a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. We don't want to put everyone else at risk. And the other thing you mentioned about keeping track of it all. So I'm a student athlete at the sport. I play soccer, and from what I've seen, how the schools have handled COVID cases in athletics so far has been amazing. From as far as I know, anytime a COVID case is reported with like an athlete, that team is quarantined until everyone can get tested, or for 14 days, and then they're allowed to come back and practice once they've all been cleared. I know, a couple teams, I know at least at Etzel, have been quarantined, but for the most part, there hasn't really been any transmission through athletics. It's all been, they brought it in, they discovered, they got tested, they discovered they had it, and then they reported it, and then that team got quarantined until everyone could be tested. And so I will say, in my opinion, at least that system has worked really well. And I can't speak for everyone, and I know athletics is a smaller group, in a lot of cases outside, and it's voluntary, right? I choose to go play a sport. You don't require me to. And I understand that if we go back in person, school would be required, but maybe that's something else you'd like to do. Maybe you offer more optional, you do like a Zoom in the room kind of thing for the students that aren't there, and then if I want to go back in person, I can, or I can choose to stay at home and do class on Zoom. I don't envy you guys. I know you guys have a super difficult decision. It affects a lot of people, and there's no necessarily right answer. I just wanted to make the students heard that going back in person is, I think, a lot more important for our education than some people are bringing to the front of their minds as they think of important things to think about.
Sure, thank you very much. Very proud of you, what you've done today. Appreciate it.
Great job.
Our next speaker is, let's see.
President Barry,
Yes. Who is it?
before we go to the next speaker, it's about time that we'll have to call for an extension of the meeting.
No way. Oh, you're not
Yeah,
joking.
way.
Oh,
And can we do the extension for 30 minutes?
no,
'Cause
No,
Our bylaws
has to be
you
15
have to
minutes?
go by the,
it's okay.
It
Is
has
that a
to be-
motion, trustee
yeah.
McDonald?
Put in a motion to extend the meeting 15 minutes.
support.
We have a motion support. Secretary Lang, roll call vote, please.
Lane, yes. McDonald,
Yes?
Mead,
he's muted.
He's looking for the
I can
button.
read his lips. He's
Yeah,
saying
he
yes.
said it.
Oh,
Moses,
now he's screaming yes. Next.
Yes,
Moses,
yes.
Petchakov.
Yes,
Yes.
Thorpe, Bear.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Unanimous moving forward. Thank you, Dr. Mead. Okay, I thought this was an agenda. We'll hold off on that one. Next speaker is Jane Mazza, here to speak representing the Dearborn Federation of Teachers. Oh, is
I think
that
that's thunder.
a sign?
I didn't know Storm.
Oh, that's the grand entrance. There you go.
Dr. Malenko. School Board President Barry and the trustees, I am Jane Mazza, President of the Teachers Union, and I'm speaking tonight in favor of reopening the schools with the hybrid plan as soon as it is safe to begin those plans. The Reopen Committee decided that the information from the Wayne County Health Department, outside Detroit, would be used to guide our reopen plans, but we also need to keep in mind the Dearborn infection rate. One main point I would ask the board to keep in mind is that from the beginning of this school year, we have asked our teachers to learn a new LMS, learning management system, Schoology, as well as a new virtual presentation system, Zoom. And in addition to these programs, we've also added a new language arts curriculum for elementary and a new math program in secondary. On top of all this new learning, we also added additional tasks in MyStar, student engagement tracking, as well as student activity tracking, the learning labs. This is additional paperwork the teachers and instructional staff need to record. And add to that the two new words of 2020, synchronous and asynchronous. And when we say asynchronous isn't a lot of work, that's not true. This is the independent work students are doing, but teachers are having to plan it. They're also meeting in small groups and doing office hours during this time. This has caused, because of all this, our teachers to feel like they've already taught a full year of school, and we're only in the second month. I'm advocating that the board needs to make recommendations that the hybrid learning does not add more to the already overflowing plate that staff are trying to balance. We need to factor in additional planning time for staff, as well as shortening the amount of time that our students are working on the computer. Please rethink the time and amount of asynchronous work that staff are required to assign and students need to complete. Teachers continue to reach out to me about the level of stress and anxiety they're feeling. All of us have been under the COVID stress since March, and we have no idea when this will pass. Many of our teachers and staff also have children at home, so they're now balancing more than they've had in the past. As teachers, the majority of us have very little experience teaching remotely, so this has also been a source of stress. Imagine how you would feel to teach all day to a black screen. That is what many of our secondary teachers are working with because students do not need to turn their cameras on. We've all experienced technology issues, but add a class of 27 5 to 6-year-olds to that mix and understand how our elementary teachers feel when the Zoom doesn't work properly or Schoology is down for the day or the morning. These are all daily occurrences for our teachers, and I'm very proud and honored to be representing them, but they are asking for some relief. That's why I'm in favor of Plan 3 for the elementary. The plan gives staff additional planning time and reduces the amount of time students need to be on the computer. And I know I'm kind of repeating it because that's the feeling I've been getting tonight at this meeting from the school board and from the administration. I did want to point out, though, when we said about all staff would report, if it's safe enough for us to do hybrid at the elementary, it's safe enough for us to bring back secondary to do learning labs each day. Because it is not a union's idea to separate our staff, elementary and secondary. And I have to tell you as a union, I cannot support treating one group of teachers differently than another group of teachers in that type of fashion. Okay, thank you for your time.
Just 2 points. I want you to know that I spoke to many, many parents over the weekend, and I just kept on hearing it over and over and over, what an amazing job our teachers are doing. The other point I wanted to bring up, you mentioned positivity rate, and Trustee McDonald asked a good question early on in the meeting. As I was leaving my house today, I went up and when I noticed that we only had the dates up to last week, actually last week, I did check into the last 6, 7 days, and guess what? The positivity rate is going in the other direction now. So for that 1 week, it was at 3.6. Last Friday, it was at 5.02. Just yesterday, it was at 4.02. I did the numbers. The average is at 3.94 right now for the last week. So it's starting to go in the other direction. So there was a very good question that Trustee McDonald asked. So we are, as a team, as a team, we're going to keep an eye on those. And if we have to hit the brakes, we will. Next speaker, Trustee Secretary Lane, you can take this speaker off your list. It's Mrs. Nicole Bearcat of Dearborn, wants to speak to us on teacher appreciation.
Take a breath.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Bearcat. I'm here tonight to talk about teacher appreciation. At the end of this, I will be asking you, what are you doing to appreciate our teachers? I think we can all agree that Dearborn teachers have been so much more than amazing through all of the twists and turns we faced these last 6 months. Overnight, putting together work for students and being a strength to students and their families when there was so much uncertainty, with grace and professionalism, all while dealing with their own uncertainty in their own lives. Before teachers came back, did you give them all emotional evaluations? How are they doing? Have they lost family members to this virus? Have they become a one-income home? Do they have adequate childcare? How is the process to ask teachers to teach strictly virtually? Asking a teacher to volunteer for a position, then put a stipulation that the position they held for years or currently would not be guaranteed when they come back. Would one of you sign up for that? Then when you don't have enough to volunteer, school principals are forced to choose a teacher to teach virtually because you do not have enough volunteers. This is not the first time I have stood before you about a mistreatment and bullying of teachers in our district. It won't be the last until the toxic system is fixed, and I have individuals in your seat that will stand up for what is right and clean house. These are human beings and should be treated as such. They nurture our children when they are in person teaching and now virtually. I watched a teacher cry as she was telling her students goodbye because she had to make a change for her own sanity, and as a parent, that is what was right for your family. I comforted my own child as he cried because this teacher made his learning so amazing. She made virtual learning so smooth, and these kids were thriving. And she made connections with these kids. They're juggling a million tasks at once, and yet they're still being asked to juggle more. How much more can you take? The board needs to know that teachers are told they cannot speak to any of you without permission from their boss. Why is that? So anyone with valid complaints can be filtered out. That is a toxic work environment. Teachers fear repercussions for speaking out to you. I have many letters and more coming from previous and current teachers. I will deliver them to President Barry myself to share with you all. Teachers should be encouraged and not threatened to come speak at board meetings about anything. How many teachers have we lost in the past 5 years compared to how long teachers stayed before? Is there a record of that? As a parent with students in the district and a community member, all we hear is how great Dearborn is. And I love Dearborn. I grew up here. My kids grew up here. I think it's fabulous. But how great will it last when teachers are leaving our district? Let me tell you how your teachers are feeling because I've spoken to a lot of them. And these are just some of the comments and some of the letters that I have. Your teachers feel disposable, undervalued, frustrated with the lack of transparency, overwhelmed, intimidated by bullying from higher-ups. Instead of starting school after Labor Day, the state gave you leniency for this. You instead made your teachers scrambled to the breaking point for some. I've talked with teachers in tears because of the treatment from administration when they come with complaints. Dearborn has amazing teachers. Why are we losing teachers to early retirement in other districts because of this treatment? I have a copy of your bylaws and policies, 3362, harassment of staff. It's public on Google if anybody wants to look it up. I think that administration needs to follow their own bylaws. From your webpage, it says, under indicators of success, invest in staff at all levels to produce a caring and nurturing environment for students. I didn't make this up. It's here. Taken from another district webpage. In a professional learning community, educators create an environment that fosters mutual cooperation, emotional support, and personal growth as they work together to achieve what they cannot accomplish alone. This does not feel like the environment that you're stating. Board members, I have asked teachers that have left to send me exit interviews that so many were not even offered. I will share them all with you. I have reached out to current staff and former staff. Teachers, I will help you by sharing concerns you have with the board, because teachers, parents know there is an effort to stifle your voice. You can remain anonymous. There's plenty of reviews that I found on the web of teachers that are upset from being mistreated in the district. Dearborn residents, make your voice heard. There are board member seats up to be replaced. Vote out those that do not support our students and teachers. Notice who remains silent. Get to know your candidates running, and let's clean house. Board members that are not up to losing your seat yet, we will be voting for your spot at some point. We are watching you. Clean house. Now I ask you again, what are you doing to appreciate our teachers? I have those letters for you
Thank
as
you
well.
very much, yes. Our next speaker is Mrs. Nancy Rendazzo Abdusata of Dearborn, would like to speak to us regarding, I'm going to quote, "my experience with drawing my son."
All right. I am gonna put a little timer on myself because I feel like
I got the timer.
I
Mr.
don't.
Ward.
Oh, you do? Well, now I have one too. Okay. So I was here at the last meeting just to talk about how it was going with my son, who has an IEP, who has symptoms of autism, and so I got so much response, so many calls, so many things happened since then. But about 2 weeks ago, I decided to withdraw him. And so my first question was, I wonder how many students have withdrawn. I don't know if that's like public information, but I did hear comments from other parents that students are being withdrawn, and I'm wondering if this is a concern for the district. I spoke last time about like this huge disconnect I'm feeling between like my community and myself and the way I feel. And it's just kind of maybe who I am as a person. Like, I'm not, like, I never in a million years would imagine making it teachers and schools' responsibilities to control a virus. Even a pretty dangerous virus, it's just like, I never blame somebody for giving my kid a sickness that killed him or something, but my personal responsibility with health is like a big deal to me, like I'm a home birth mom and all that stuff. Okay, so my shopping experience, like, while having my kid in school. So a few things happened that were really concerning to me. One was when he did go back for his contingency plan and IEP, the people who were seeing him, like the different specialists, were concerned that he could pass on to them something that could kill one of their elderly parents they're living with or something like that. And when I expressed to them, like, well, let's just cancel these sessions, I won't withdraw them, but we'll just cancel and I'll just put everything on the back burner. They said, no, I can't do that because they're legally obligated to see my son as per his IEP. Well, I don't want to be putting my son in front of people who are scared of him because they're legally obligated to see him. That just doesn't make sense for me because I have enough resources personally to do a good job caring for him. The other thing was, I listened to the whole meeting today, and I really think you guys are very supportive of the teachers. I feel like the whole staff and everybody is front and center as to like, do they want to come back? How concerned are they? How are things going to be staffed? So yeah, I feel like as far as the teachers go, I hardly troubled my son's teacher at all. She was not very responsive or concerned about me or my situation at all. And then my sister has been an online school teacher for 5 years, so I'm familiar with what it's like to be an online school teacher. There's online charters available throughout the state, and they save lots of money, and charters make money. So anyway, that's kind of what I had to say, just
Great.
my experience, and then I plan to re-enroll him when things go back to normal.
We'll definitely welcome him back. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Chair will entertain a motion to extend the meeting 15 more minutes.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support, roll call vote, please.
Lane, yes.
Yes.
Donald, yeah, Mead,
Yeah.
Moses,
Yes.
Hutchlikoff,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes, thank you. The motion passes. Our last speaker tonight here in person is Mr. Leonard Hughes, also of Dearborn, would like to speak to us regarding how they're gonna clean.
First of all, I would like to thank all the teachers that have done their online with, students like mine. I have an 8-year-old son who has ADHD, and he is a basket case to keep his attention, but it works, it gets done. But my concern is you guys are focusing on sending the elementary schools and those kids back first. The kids that don't understand the repercussions that would happen if they pull their mask down for a split second. You have the high school student back here, prime example. He fully understands what needs to be done and why. I don't understand why you guys are seeking to send the elementary school back versus high school first. And one of my concerns are the cleanliness of the rooms. Child has to use a pencil sharpener, okay? On his way to the pencil sharpener, he lifts his mask, wipes his nose, picks his nose, whatever. Grabs the pencil sharpener. Goes back to his desk. Next kid's got to use pencil sharpener. Somebody gonna wipe down that pencil sharpener between those two kids? Probably not. So now, if my child does get COVID, I'm assuming if they come down with symptoms, it'll be mandatory to go have them get tested, correct? It's mandatory to get them tested at that point?
Sure.
That is a trauma I don't want to have to set my child through unless it is absolutely a necessity. And then if he does in fact test positive, as a father, I can't fathom not being able to see my child as he is in deathly fear because he's quarantined in a hospital and the only thing he wants to do is see his family, and he can't. The thought of that alone brings tears to my eyes right now because I don't want to imagine my child that afraid. So I'm asking, if you are going to start with bringing any of the students back, start with the ones that know the repercussions and can understand them fully. Don't start with the ones that don't fully get it yet. Those are my concerns.
Thank
And
you
I'm
very
sure
much.
that's a lot of other parents' concerns too.
Sure. Thank you very much. The only thing I noticed you came in a little late into the meeting. I just want to make sure you understand that no matter what we do today, from what I heard from the administration, is you will have an option to take your son or daughter into the virtual academy.
And that, may I ask one other question?
Yes, please.
As a parent, at the beginning of the school year, I was more than willing to send my children back.
Okay?
But sending them back amongst the beginning of the flu season, when if they do develop a cough or a sneeze or a fever, that chances are it'll be the flu. I don't want to have my kid have to go through that because it's the flu. So sending them back at this time, at the beginning of the flu season, I feel is the wrong thing to do.
And-
Wait until after.
And you're not wrong as a parent. Whatever your decisions are, that's your decision as a parent. So
And that
I
will
respect
be allowed
I
is to be
respect
able to,
that.
after, to send my child back to a school, whether it be a different one, because I understand that he won't be able to receive the same teacher for the rest of the year, but that will be an option, correct?
Sure, sure, possibly.
All
We're
right.
going to do our best. But thank you very much.
Thank you.